Hello. In this mini-series, we will tell you about Emperor Justinianus and his period. In the first part, we will take a brief look at the events that took place before Justinian and the story of the Roman Empire. When Augustus established the Republican regime in 27 BC, Rome was a superpower dominating the entire Mediterranean basin. Approximately 150 years after the death of the first emperor, the Roman Empire experienced its heyday during the reign of Marcus Aurelius. This brilliant period of the empire ended with the murder of Emperor Alexander Severus in 235. During the crisis of the 3rd century, which lasted until 285, the empire lost its political, economic and social stability. More than one emperor reigned at the same time during the crisis. These emperors, who were of military origin, were declared emperors by their own troops. Conflicts that arise as a result, it caused the empire's military power to deplete and the focus on external factors to disappear. Many cities of the empire were plundered by tribes that Romans considered barbarians, especially the Goths. Migration from village to city caused production to decline. The resulting hyperinflation caused the end of trade and collapse of purchasing power. During this crisis, more than 20 people ascended or aspired to the throne. The period when this crisis was most politically severe occurred during the reign of Emperor Valens and his son Gallienus, which lasted between 253 and 268. Valens was a general in the Roman army and managed to rebel and usurp the throne in the turmoil that followed the reign of Emperor Gallus. He was captured during a war with the Iranians in 260. This was something that had never happened to a Roman emperor. It is not clear exactly how Valens spent his captive life and when he died. During the reign of Gallienus, who took over the administration after his father, the empire began a process of disintegration. The new empires formed in Gaul and Palmyra seriously threatened Rome. During the reign of Aurelian in the 270s, the empire managed to achieve political stability. Nevertheless, the empire was able to maintain all its stability during the reign of Emperor Diocletian and survived the crisis. This crisis deeply affected the socio-cultural structure, management approach and state concept of the empire. After Diocletian and his reign, the state evolved into a more controlling structure. The concept of emperor took on a more Iranian appearance and was given a divine image. As a matter of fact, one of the most effective reforms of the Diocletian period was a new form of government called tetrarchy. Diocletian realized that the country could not be ruled by a single person. That's why he divided the empire into two, so that there would be one emperor each in the east and the west. Under these emperors, there would be assistant emperors called Caesars. The Caesars would replace the emperors when they left office, and there would be no period of instability between the two emperors. Accordingly, in 286, he appointed his comrade Maximian as emperor of the west. Later, in 205, Galerius and Constantinus were appointed Caesars. Many works such as price regulation, reorganization of the provinces and the suppression of the Christian faith, which gained great power during the crisis of the 3rd century, were carried out during the Diocletian period. These reforms led to the formation of a large bureaucracy. Still, the empire was open to different developments. As a matter of fact, shortly after the Diocletian period, it became clear that tetrarchy also had its problems and was not a perfect form of government. From the resignation of Diocletian in 205 to the sole rule of Constantine I in 224, the stakeholders of the tetrarchy fought among each other, and even new pretenders to the throne emerged. Christianity was recognized as a religion in the empire with the Serdica Edict published in 311 and the Milan Edict published in 313. Constantine managed to shift the center of the state to the east with the reforms he made until his death in 337. and he managed to secure Christianity by being baptized and standing by the Christians with the Council of Nicaea in 325. This can be considered as the development and change process of the Roman Empire. As a result, when Emperor Constantine I died in 337, the empire he left was different in every respect from the empire of Marcus Aurelius, who died 157 years before him. After Constantine, his relatives ruled over the empire until 363. The last emperor, Julianus, who was related to Constantine by blood, went down in history as trying to bring back the old pagan faith. However, this effort ended with paganism being abandoned by the people and with his death at a young age while on a campaign against the Persians. The period of the brothers Valentinian and Valens who came after him was marked by the Battle of Adrianople in 378. During this war, Emperor Valens died and most of his army was destroyed. This enabled Theodosius to rise. However, the deficit that occurred after the Battle of Adrianopolis was tried to be solved by recruiting Goths as soldiers. The most important event of the Theodosius period was the acceptance of Christianity as the official religion of the empire. The empire was previously divided between two emperors, but as a result of these divisions, a single emperor always managed to unite the two parts again. When Emperor Theodosius died in 395, his country was divided between his two sons. This event was the last division of the empire. In the following century, the western wing of the empire rapidly collapsed. Powerful Hun attacks and the rapid invasion of barbarian tribes into the empire's lands and the establishment of their own kingdoms here finally resulted in the collapse of the empire in 476. This state effectively came to an end in 476 when Odoacer sent imperial signs to the east. This period occurred during the rise of a new dynasty in the east. In place of the Theodosius dynasty, which ended in 457, a general named Leo was made emperor under the name Leo I, with the help of a general named Aspar, who held power in the empire at that time. After Leo's death, bureaucrats named Zeno and Anastasius, who married his daughter, became emperors respectively. At this point, it is useful to look at the religious conflicts within the empire. During the period we have mentioned so far, 4 ecumenical councils had been convened. Although Arius, who was the reason for the first ecumenical council, was condemned by the church, most of the emperors who came after Constantine adopted his teachings. This continued until the regulation made by Theodosius. For example, Aspar, although he had all the power, could never become emperor because he was a supporter of Arius. The sectarian divisions that occurred after the first councils of Ephesus and Chalcedon caused unrest in the empire and forced the leaders to follow a policy on this issue. For example, Macrine became emperor by promising to convene a council, and Emperor Anastasius by giving an assurance that he would not oppose the religious policies of the church. However, religious debates were not completely resolved during this period. Particularly, the loyalty of the eastern states was quite weak. Emperor Anastasius was one of the longest living rulers in Byzantine history and probably died in his 80s. Anastasius did not have a child. This meant he had to choose an heir. Classical narratives present us with a story. The emperor had no children, but he had 3 nephews who could succeed him. Anastasius wanted to choose one of his nephews as emperor without involving himself. He invited them to a dinner. He left a compass with the word king written under one of the cushions on which they would sit. Thus, whichever nephew sat on that cushion would become emperor in the future. But 2 of his nephews fought over where to sit, and they both sat on the same cushion. The cushion with the compass written king was left empty. Anastasius took this as a sign and abandoned his plan. In his dream at night, he heard himself choosing the first person who entered his room in the morning as his successor. The first person to enter his room was Justinianus, who was the commander of the elite guard at the time, and he was designated as the crown prince. But this story is quite literary and schematic. Yes, Justinus was the one who ruled the empire after Anastasius. But there must have been much deeper reasons behind this. The people, church and the soldiers supported Justinus. Some historians say that Justinian was also involved. Now, let's get to know Justinus briefly. He was most likely born in a Latin-speaking village in Illyria. He had been a high-ranking soldier and was not part of the established aristocracy. This situation is also highlighted in historical sources that have survived to the present day. For example, although Procopius, the famous historian of the period, stated that he was illiterate and was too far from the bureaucracy to sign, such claims should be approached with caution. It is an unrealistic claim that a person who has reached such a high rank is illiterate. In addition, it was not customary for the Romans of the period for a man from the countryside to become emperor. The emperor adopted his nephew Petrus Sabatius and named him Justinianus. Justinian had been an influential figure since the early years of his uncle's reign. He wrote letters, established contacts in foreign relations, and helped his uncle in domestic relations. Finally, in 526, Justinian was declared co-emperor. In 527, he appointed him as his heir. With the death of the emperor in the same year, Justinian ascended the throne as the sole and legitimate emperor. This marked the beginning of a new era and a story that would last nearly 40 years.